I have audio. You have audio. We
Do I
have
have audio?
audio.
We have audio. Are we live?
I hope so.
This is the worst intro we've done in a while.
They usually consist of, can you hear us? I now understand why some streamers actually start a pre-stream so they can...
There we go. We are now
Works.
live, officially.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Happy whatever day this is. Monday.
It
It's
is a
nearly
Monday.
Halloween. Happy almost Halloween. Happy nearly November. Merry Monday.
Happy nearly November.
Let's just check. Can people hear us clearly without weird echoes and so on?
I hope so. This is awesome. So we've got a few things to go through today. After requests last week on Discord, we're going to also have a little section of every live stream, basically like what we've been up to, so that it's all condensed into one place. Rather than trying to scatter it throughout the stream, then we can also cut it up and produce a little clip. Should be useful. I've also started a blog. So we've had a blog there for a while, but we haven't really been using it. So now we are using the blog. We're going to post updates there as well, and Discord, etc. So there's plenty of places where we can keep in touch with you and make sure that everything is up to date as well.
And in case you guys haven't spotted it, it was just posted about an hour and a half ago on I forgot the name of his channel, on Mithy's channel. But we are proudly hosting, or one of the many hosts, of the Godot Jam.
Well done.
I said it right.
Yes.
I've been getting that wrong all day.
Godot. I got it completely wrong earlier. I just sounded like I was mumble rapping.
It's so much fun to get wrong. The Godot to Jam. So there is the, here we go. There is the intro video in which you can learn more about it. As a quick overview, it's basically a month-long festival of Godot that's going to culminate, that's what I'm looking for, in a jam, the theme of which will be announced later on, awesome. With a whole bunch of different content creators, some educators, some game developers. There's going to be some really great videos and streams and events, and just looking behind the scenes there. They also have a Discord you can join, which is over here. Boop. And yeah, so that's the thing we're taking part in. I've already signed up for one streamy video, and I've put in an application idea thing for a second.
Nice.
And I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to see what people are making him.
Yep, so we'll let you know about when Jan will be doing his live stream, when he knows he's doing his live stream.
Also, my headphones are breaking, so I'm just going to do that.
It's better than the other week. So I've just noticed also the lower banner there has the old logo on it. So I'll sort that out for some time in the future. It does, yeah. I've not noticed, even though we've had the new logo for some time.
Hello, Roderick. Hello, Todd. Hello, other peoples. Todd says, such clear views. What cameras do you both use?
I'm going to jump in before you actually say the brand of the camera and say lighting is far more important than the camera that you're using. So I've spent many years messing around, and I think a live stream a couple of weeks ago, I looked more like I had jaundice than my natural skin color. So I've actually got 3 lights on, 3-point lighting theory, etc. One's slightly blue, one's yellow, and one's on the back, highlighting my hair and stuff to separate me from the background. But yes, lighting is really important. But in terms of what cameras we use,
bonus round. What are the names of the lighting positions in 3-point lighting?
We have, so this one would be my key light because it's the one lighting me up. Well, actually, the wall behind is. This one will be my fill light, and the one over there is the rim or backlight.
Full marks, well done.
Why, thank you.
Our cameras. I'm using a, what is this? A Logitech C something.
C920. So it's quite a popular camera, but it's done. It was released, and it's been an amazing camera for many years. It's obviously been superseded with new ones. I know that they've all done streamer cams since then. Mine's an actual mirrorless camera. It's a Logitech. No, it's not. It's a Lumix. So that's Panasonic. There we go. Panasonic G7. And so that's plugged in via HDMI to the computer, which is capturing stuff.
Hello, Kusrav. Hello, Gerard. So yeah, the cameras are fun. There's lots of really good cameras. In fact, this camera is normally better, but because I'm coming through via Discord, my image quality is not as sharp as Mikey's. So it's actually impressive that Mikey can get the picture looking this good.
Yes. I think you're compressed down to 720p, and then YouTube is also...
Not my image either, just I am compressed down, which is what happened with this thing.
Well, that explains it.
It does.
Nice. Right, I'm going to move us around for a second. I'd like to spend a little bit at the beginning of the stream. Oh, wow, that really goes off axis. I've never heard myself before. I've been tweaking with audio as well since I've been doing an audio course, LMMS. Yeah, I can really hear when I go off axis like that. I must stop doing that in courses. So just want to whiz around to the site real quick and show you guys not just around the site, but also we have underneath the blog. So you should all see on the top banner here on the site. This is where we're going to start adding things to just keep you all updated. So I posted a quick blog today that it's all the course is underway, and we've also had a few hiccups getting people onto the course. Now, some of those have been you used a different email on Kickstarter as to what you used over on our site. That's fine. Just reach out however you want to reach out. Usually Discord is probably the best. But yeah, there's not much to see here at the moment because I just posted the first one today to let everybody know that it's underway. And in terms of the LMMS course, the first section is almost buttoned up, and I'll be starting on the second section. And once the second section is sort of like almost there, it will come live for everybody. And then I think there are 3 more sections after that. So it's going to be quite a meaty course. We're going to be expanding over several different ways of creating music, different musical structures. And I'm really excited. I've already had people in the Discord post what they've created so far. So people are creating. That's what I love.
Yep, I'm enjoying it. I forgot what I was going to say. It's good. Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds like the course is coming along at a pretty pace.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've been playing more with Godot 4. I've been putting some new prototype things in our prototype in Godot 3.3. I've been keeping an eye on what's coming in 3.4. There's some really great stuff happening. Do you want to show off what we've been playing with in the prototype?
Yes, absolutely. So if we go ahead and open up Godot.
Now, I should point out that right now, the stuff you're about to see isn't functional. I'll talk about what's going to be happening with it later after we've seen it, but let's just take a look at what it looks like. So when you open that, bear in mind you're not sharing your screen with me, so I'm just assuming they can see it.
There we go. So you guys should be able to see the Godot Action RPG. I've just turned the music down for the moment. Let's leave that as so. So I'll use the procedural test. So one thing that has come on massively is the procedural dungeons, because it's really quick. I'm not going to chuck these all up really high. It used to take over 2 minutes, and it will now take 20 seconds on my machine. But this, with the addition of the loading bars, incredibly quick. And there we go. That's procedural dungeon created.
So, I've been working on the beginnings of a magic system to go with our player class system. Now, what will happen is that only mages can use magic weapons, and magic weapons will each have a spell or 2 spells, a light spell and a heavy spell. So you'll have to make decisions as you go as to what you're going to equip. But Mikey, do you want to show off what we have?
Yeah, and we're now in a dark room. I was hoping one of these would spawn in. That's the thing, though. If we want to demonstrate something in a procedural dungeon, we don't know if we're going to be in a dark room. So which one should I press first? 4, 5, or 6?
Yes. Oh, you're asking them.
There you go. So we've got... What's this? Is this one Frost?
That's Frost. Right now, this is just a simple physics. You're literally lobbing it with an impulse, and it's bouncing off things. There will be an impact. It will, shatter when it hits. I've actually disabled despawn on collision, but you can actually knock the lids off the sarcophagus with it.
So we were talking about this prior to the stream going, and it reminds me so much of this one here, the Fireball one. It reminds me a lot of a very old game from the late 90s called Alien vs Predator, where you only had 4 flares that you could drop at any one time. And of course, the moment that Jan gives me this, I'm like, let's see how many we can spawn.
I mean, that's what I did as well. So we've also got the Frost, and we've got this very slow thing. Now, this very slow thing is interesting because I'm picturing this as having a huge detonation. But it's very slow, and this is dissolving on impact, and it's detecting our player. So if you're walking forward, you will actually detonate it.
So it could be used for loads of things. Ooh. Oh, barrel room, even better.
Go for it.
I'm a child.
although they are sleeping, so you can't tell. You have to hit one and then hit it.
No! Never mind. Yes, of course, we can't have awake.
Yeah, when we're spawning in this
bodies.
many physics objects, I have them spawn in asleep. But once they've started moving, you should be able to do it.
I also presume that we could trigger them with the particles as well.
Oh yeah. I'm thinking of putting in a on the explosion, the same as we did with Mag Racer.
Yeah.
When the explosion goes off, it'll apply an impulse from the center, so anything that's hit by it will be pushed.
That is neat. Oh, a really long
So
corridor.
yeah, I've been playing with those. Right now, they're just bound to 4, 5, and 6 because I'm using an MMO mouse, and those are easy to press with a thumb. It's annoying for Mikey, but I don't really care about that.
Oh no, I'm quite used to. That's quite a common thing within an RPG to have spells and things binded to your top row of keys.
But yeah, the idea is chests also now always have at least one item in them.
Yeah, it's got the great sword in it. We don't have enemies in though yet in the procedural.
No, although I did find something that made me very happy this week with Godot 4, which is that the ability to... How'd you get that all the way out here? The ability to bake navigation at runtime has been added in. And so you can procedure generate your dungeon and have your NPCs just work with navigation. It will take a little bit longer, but that's pretty awesome.
But it works.
I was going to show you that in Godot 4, but the current build of Godot 4, when I try and do that, it crashes my machine, like a full hard reset crash, 80% of the time. And I thought that might be boring to watch. It's just going to be me reconnecting.
Yeah, there goes Jan. But yeah, we didn't have the chest spawning anything.
I do love the lighting effects.
Another dark
Go back
room.
and do those god rays. I mean, look at that.
I liked it down this corridor. I mean, there was an unlit corridor. Was it this one? No, it was down here. Yeah, but an unlit corridor. If we turn the lighting really down, we could... I mean, this would change the feel of the game as well. But you could just imagine using this, you would cast Luminaire, and it would just... I don't know. It's a torch that follows you around.
Yeah, we could make that. Especially if navigation works. That's just basic pathfinding. Yeah, bake nav at runtime is huge because it means I don't have to mess around with A star and all kinds of other stuff. I could just use the navigation server, and the updates to navigation are pretty good too. These also have sound effects and they have Doppler. So as the fireball goes past you, once the NPCs can throw magic, because the NPCs will also have classes, you will hear the fireball going past.
That'll be so nice. And of course, that might end up with a few jump things. We could incorporate that into maybe a trap that sets off a series of fireworks.
Yep. I was actually thinking about putting random traps in the corridors too, but I'm trying not to play too much more with the procedural maze because it's good enough for this part of the proof of concept.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to change as well. So when it comes to...
Yeah. And there's a bunch of core systems I have to put in place still.
So let's come back to us.
Ooh.
Then I can close the game down. That's nice and smooth. If I do it the other way around, it gets all messy.
So yeah, those are some of the particles that we made earlier for our particles test. And I've just been enjoying putting them in game. It's still very, first stage. And that I haven't put in the animation yet for the casting. I haven't built a weapon around it. This is literally just what does it look like in game, and it looks so pretty.
Yeah,
like I love the lighting effects,
and it's fun to play with already. And I'm kind of not liking it when we use like mana or something, and I can't cast like a million of them.
Well, I mean, we could have a weapon that does lots of low power fire. I mean, we also want to talk about do we want to do what do we want to do? Should we do systems like flammable things?
So like tables catch fire and then they
if you touch something that's on fire, you take heat damage and things like that. Or do we just leave it as is? If you can take damage, you will take damage. Do we make it so that you will be on fire and you have an on fire node on you, which then can interact with things around you? Like trying to decide what to do with this. And it occurred to me that the way we're doing magic, and I don't mean the way we've structured it, I mean the concept we have for magic, where magic spells all do something different, actually makes it very hard to make the code modular. Because each one is going to do a unique thing. So I need to break down what's the common thing that all magic weapons have, and inherit from weapon, make magic weapon. Only a certain class of player or NPC can use it, because I also
Yep.
want you to turn around and see a skeleton throwing a fireball. I think that's going to radically change how you play the game.
Well, of course, the enemies at the moment are all close up, close quarters combat enemies. You're going to need a sword or anything. Once we start getting ranged enemies in there, and if they're in the corridors throwing fireballs down there, it's going to make a big difference
And
to the way the game
dodging
plays.
past fireballs is going to be a thing.
Yes. Suddenly there's a genuine reason for the dodge key other than
Right.
rolling around the level. That'd be brilliant.
I mean, there is still a reason, because you can get away from a big attack, but it does. Yeah, it's going to be, if you're a slow two-handed weapon class, that's the only real way to do it. I also would kind of like to differentiate the NPCs classes with something more than just a palette swap.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like a floppy wizard hat.
Yeah, that'll go. Yeah, that's fine. I'll start modeling it this evening.
So just to talk about the classes, this isn't in game yet. This is still very much planning, because I'm trying to figure out what this is going to look like before I start putting the code in. And even like the code we've got right now, I'm going to have to strip it out and replace it entirely. This is just me saying, what does this look like in game? I'm thinking we have 3 classes. We have one-handed, two-handed, and ranged, or fast, slow, and magic, or whatever you want to call them. I haven't named them yet. If you guys want to help name them, by all means do so. We also have another naming question to do. But when you start the game, you get a choice of character. And we're going to you're going to randomly generate the characters and maybe change up their stats a little bit, or change what their starting weapon is, or, change something about their appearance. And then you pick the one you want, and that's going to be the weapon you can use. You can still find the other weapons and sell them, or bring them back to your house and keep them for the next player or the next character you have. But if you get yourself a mage, then you have to use magic weapons, and that's going to be its own play style. And the way I'm seeing it is, if we take one-handed weapon as the baseline, so that kind of speed, that kind of stamina, that kind of damage. Two-handed is going to do a lot more damage with much slower attacks. Move slower, but have more armor. Now, I need to be a little bit careful with move slower, because I don't want moving through the dungeon to be boring.
Yes.
Or it might be that mages have to stand still when they attack. I want to put in some gameplay reason where you're not just switching to a range thing. It's go with that. Let's see. We have Rogue, Warrior, Mage. Yep, that's pretty good. Daz says evening. Hi. Barbarian, Ranger, and Mage, Warlock. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely 3 different play styles, and if we're going to separate them and force that separation, then having distinct play styles really does work with that. And maybe
and from a game design point of view, rather than the coding point of view, that it should really feel different. And that's something that Rogue Legacy and Rogue Legacy 2 do very well. Each character class you unlock requires you to learn a different way to play.
I'm just thinking here, okay, so if we've got 4 different classes, we're going to need a lot of animations.
Well, at the moment we have 3. What's your 4th one?
Oh, I was thinking about like a rogue getting in really close, being very quick with daggers or something along those lines. Then your standard swordsman, then your big brutes that would be swinging.
Sure, you make me the weapons and give me the animations, and I'll do it. And that's the thing, right? Is we keep having to scale it back. Like, I could quite happily just have spent the last 2 weeks making more and more and more rooms for the procedure generation, but trying to make a course.
Yes, it's always
not
a tough,
really.
It's a tough challenge.
Use of my time.
Very much so.
I want to make the game, but I'm actually supposed to be making the course. So what's going on with this headphone?
Hey, that's
great.
You're now mono.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to what we can do with that. And then when we start getting clothing and weaponry in, that's going to give us even more things. And I'd love to get to the 14K stretch goal so we can start doing some customization.
Oh yes, so on that, I've updated that on the website today. So let me share the screen again. I've actually hidden the thing I need to press to share the screen. Going well, Mike. Going well. So yes, So as part of the Kickstarter, we decided that after comments from our previous Kickstarter that, oh, we wish we'd known this was going on. Can I still gain access? We took our most popular ones and added them as picks that you could take, and then you'd get whatever it is that you had gone for, whether you wanted to go for all 3 learning paths or individual ones. The options are there. But also, I've updated this, so we're incredibly close now. We're just over £300 until we get to character creation. Just to remind everybody, because it's been a hot minute since we looked at it. So character creation is down here. So it enables an extra NPC pack. So this will be your enemies and not just a single skeleton and other things. There'll be many more to play with. And then we get on to some real in-depth things like character design and creation, rigging and animating characters, implementing the dodging and the rolling. So we're going to have more fancy animations, and we'll go through exactly how to implement them within the game. We've got character customization. This is a big one.
Yep.
And then finally, equipping armor and clothing. So the character customization and the equipping armor and clothing.
Hang on a minute. Oh, yes. Sorry. The armor and clothing is an asset pack. I got that confused. That's not a course. Yep.
Yep. So this is going to be all about how to set up switching armors out in game, and obviously designing them in the first place. That is going to be really important. The character customization will be things along the lines of being able to make your characters not all exactly the same. How do you make them so you can come in and go, well, I want my rogue to be really short to emphasize that nimbleness.
Well, if we're making a roguelike as well, it means if I'm presenting you with pick one of these 3 characters, they should look very different and have a lot of character to them.
Exactly. And being able to add a bit of customization in, not only does it allow us as developers to customize them, it allows then you to get basically use those tools and give your players free roam over how their characters look.
Free roam?
Yes, I've been playing in the background. But I won't show you all unless...
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot to do there. And I'd like to make it so that playing a magic user, for example, feels great, but there's risk to it, right? You can't just stand in the doorway and hammer the button Mikey style and flatten everything before they get close. Like, it has to be, you can't move when you're casting a spell, or spells are really expensive, or whatever it is, right? There needs to be something there.
Some balance.
That makes it an interesting discovery. That makes you want to play it with all 3 classes.
Definitely.
One thing Rogue Legacy 2 does very well is when you unlock the wizard, you can have a male or female wizard, but you have to have the fake beard.
Nice.
All wizards have the fake beard. That's the only rule of wizardry.
But what about the female characters?
They have the fake beard.
What? That's a screw with my brain. I'm pretty sure a female wizard is a witch. I mean, that's what Harry Potter's taught me anyway.
Tangent. Okay, so way back when you first started in the, I guess, 80s, late 80s, Terry Pratchett gave a lecture on we have a problem with gender in fantasy. And he writes about how men get to be very powerful or athletic wizards, but women have to be either old crones or evil seductresses. Like, that's their options.
Yeah.
And that's why he wrote his witches, to sort of counterbalance that. But yeah.
I mean, they both get the pointy hat. I mean, maybe that's the distinction we should make.
Zach wins the internet. Pratchett's his favorite author. He wins. He's right.
Yes.
I'm assuming Zach is he, but Zach wins the internet.
Well done. I don't know what those prizes include. I'll tell you what, we can give you Facebook.
Also my favorite writer. Shortly followed by Gaiman. And then probably Joseph Heller. Because Catch-22 is an amazing book.
Yeah. I've gotten into Audible recently. I've realised that I'm not going to be able to get through books that I want to get through when I'm driving around and doing the day-to-day runs of everything. So I thought, you know what, I'll try this audiobook thing. You know, welcome to the 2000s, Mikey. Welcome.
I got into audiobooks when I was having to commute 3 hours a day in New Jersey. I say 3 hours a day, 3 hours each way. Wow. You go through a lot of books.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daz could join us for a pint in the drum. I'm down for it, and I'm glad that my approval means so much to you. It's actually, I mean, given how badly I do at life, my approval is actually not that valuable a coin. But you know, you could use it as some sort of cryptocurrency, and then it's worth
I was
money
gonna
for reasons.
Yancoin. We can put that in the game. Yancoin.
Let's not. Okay, so I mentioned naming. Mikey and I were talking a little bit earlier
Oh
about
yes,
our
yeah.
mascot. And there's some stuff we want to do with our mascot. And if you don't know, our mascot is a toucan. And I have here, this is not the plushie we had made of our mascot. This is a present given to me by my baby sister when she was married as a thank you for not turning up to her wedding as a toucan, which I had threatened to do, and her fiance, now husband, thought was a great idea. We need a name for our toucan. We don't have one. And Mikey and I didn't come up with good ones, especially Mikey. He just started saying every word he could think of with a T at the start of it. Pterodactyl,
Yes.
which
I,
begins
I
with a P.
can't say I'm very good at naming, so
Yank.
I'm gonna yoink your yank.
Nope.
Yoink.
Nope. You made it weird.
Me? Make something weird? No.
So yeah, if you guys want to think of names for the toucan, I don't know if we should do like a Discord poll or something like that, but I feel
Yep.
like we should name it because there's some stuff I'd like to do. Can I talk about the stuff I'd like to do?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So Mikey and I love teaching, and I will stand behind my pedagogy. It doesn't work for everybody, but you know, we know the theory behind teaching.
Mm-hmm.
What we're not good at is branding. And what I'd like to do is when I'm doing like a little video or a little project that has like 2D or 3D movement, or Mikey's doing like an example of how to use a certain effect, to have our toucan as a 2D or 3D or paper doll or render
Yeah.
that we can just use. In the same way that you might say, let's go look at Suzanne Monkey. Let's
Yeah.
go look at the Godot icon. Let's go bring in and do the thing.
I don't know what that was. Is that?
That's the toucan's name.
Okay. Oh yes.
I just
so,
don't
yeah.
know how you spell this.
Me neither. Oh, I've got a brilliant name.
Go on, then what's your brilliant name?
Toucan. Two can play that game. No? Okay.
I'm so glad you did that. And drink my water very loudly in disapproval.
Glug. So yes, we want to focus on a little bit
How about
around the
GD?
branding. You're a genie.
GD, like GD script.
Yes. Yeah, be little things like and this is why it's hot on my, sort of like my brain today with the banner down below. I was like, yeah, that's the wrong logo.
And the wrong colours. And yeah, because we had a very lovely donation of a new logo to use with a design elements and the rest of it. Like, let's actually start
Yep.
branding this thing
And
for
the
future
actual
courses.
website uses those colours as well.
It does.
So I went into the background and typed in lots of hex colours. I know some of you watching would have seen the website as it was developing because I was like, I've changed the thing, quick, have a look. And when the whole site was baby blue was probably a little bit too much.
Like a boodle. I've been catted.
One can.
One can. I don't know about wankin. That feels like it's going to go wrong really quickly.
I think so.
Yeah. But I like where you're going.
It could be one that hops along on one leg.
Yes, it can.
One can.
It's going to make animating much easier.
I'm not sure, actually. I swear. So are we, apparently. Legally, anyway.
I'm sneaking up on 50.
Hopefully 50 will take out a restraining order.
Terry the Toucan, yeah, alliteration's fun.
Yeah, that's what I was doing to Jan's.
Well, you weren't picking names. You were just going with words beginning with T, like terrific, tango, Torquemada.
Tortoise. No, wait, what?
Torquemada's a terrible name for a mascot. Let's not name it after Thomas de Torquemada, the famous inquisitor.
No, that would. No, let's not do that. Yeah, I think Terry rolls off the tongue really well, but I think we
Terry's
should
good.
open it up to more people than just on the stream
Agreed. Isbird?
to go along with his cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I get my dog next year, am I calling it Is Dog?
Yes.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, I have two cats. I have Iscat and Caboodle. And the reason why is when I was living in New York, I was living in this tiny studio place, and I was kind of annoyed at not living with cats. So I went to a PetSmart in Manhattan, and they happened to have like a charity inn with a bunch of kittens. I got talking to the lady, and there were these two little grey cats, brother and sister. This is 13 years ago now. And I was saying, is it okay to have kittens in a studio? Oh, yeah, it's great. They love it. Like, really? They were going, no, it's fine. You should adopt them. I'm like, well, I mean, I could put in an application. You should put in an application. She turned up at my house an hour later, or my apartment an hour later, with Iscat and Caboodle. They were called Billy and Bobby. I opened the box, and Iscat popped out with this expression on his face of, what is it? So I explained to him, Iscat. Once you have Iscat, you have to have Caboodle. And it also works as kitten Caboodle.
I like that.
Is not cat is good name for a dog.
Is not cat.
But you could also do is not broccoli. Like,
I don't think that would work.
I mean, she basically did. She turned up with 3 cats. It's like, I'm not getting the 3rd cat. Like, he's very cute, but. And now here, 13 years later, here is Caboodle, completely pair bonded to me, unwilling to be more than 3 feet from me at any given point.
I love it when she's doing a parrot impression.
Yep.
Up on his head.
Cattant.
Anyway, back to the naming of a toucan. Isn't
that a song by Seal?
Awesome. Not quite in frame. There we go. I can move you around. There we go. So I've shoved you down to the lower half so that Iscat can
Caboodle.
be. Oh,
this is Caboodle.
It's Caboodle.
Caboodle has the white face and the bad ear.
I get confused.
Because
so Caboodle,
she managed to shake her. She has ear allergies. She managed to shake her ears so hard she burst a blood vessel in this ear, and now she has a cauliflower ear, or a hematoma, if you want the official thing.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
We've all learned a new word today. Not cat. Very good, Zach. Very good. Bang cat.
If toucan not equal cat.
Oh, I love that. So yeah.
Ooh, can we call it? Can we call it pseudocode?
Pseudocode.
Like pseudocode.
I don't know. That kind of works.
Sorry, laughing too hard for my cat. I'm in the wrong place again.
Oh, hold on. Have you've moved back? Oh, hold on. Let me make you bigger again. There we go. You're the right size now, Jan.
I don't think that's true.
If only it was this simple. I should just grab a slider.
That'd be great. I miss being the size I was when I was 35.
Bull cat. I like.
Schrodinger's variable.
Oh, one thing some of you might have missed from last week, bringing it back to not naming of animals. Right. So I want to show off the lighting that you did last week in Godot 4.
Oh, yeah. Let's show that off. So this is me playing in Godot 4 with Mikey there. It crashed a few times. But it's just playing with a physical sky, directional light, and 2 torches.
Yeah, I saw that. I still had
setting an animation player on the directional light. It's just rotating over 30 seconds, is it? 15 seconds?
Yes.
And sets the sky. I don't know if you can see the stars in this.
I think it's going to be completely
just
crushed.
About see them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing the difference in that the lighting was actually making, which I'm going to play it again.
These are the same assets we're using with the same colors, but the lighting engine is so much better that when it goes dark again, oh, he's moved it. Never mind.
Nope, it's going back again.
Oh, here we go. When it gets dark, it feels so like
dark.
densely atmospheric.
Yeah.
Like this feels like a very different game, and I'm really looking forward to what we can do with this. It also occurred to me that I should play with the particle collisions and see if I can get fog that moves around you as you walk.
So the washed outness is not really anything else other than the fact that we stuck a light in it, a directional light, and spun it round and wanted to show off just the lighting rather than, oh, we need to change the lighting for day and night scenes. It's just a directional light moving around. And that is also with the new dynamic sky, isn't it, that Godot
The new
forward
dynamic
promised?
sky, there's also the fact that I'm using a single light and very little ambient light. And the single light is not white, but it's very close to white. And that doesn't tend to happen unless you're in very specific atmospheric conditions. Like those colors look like high summer in Greece, where it's just like the stone is glowing white. Like that light is so fixed.
And it will look
Because
lovely
we
for
have
outdoor scenes. That's the thing.
yeah.
We've got an indoor scene that's being lit as outdoors, so it will look a little bit washed out, essentially.
And I've got a single very powerful sun, which is being bounced off very close to the walls, and it's just bringing out the white. Like if I played with the atmospheric effects, I'd get a different thing.
Yeah. In fact, we
But
did play
the
a
materials
lot
are so cool.
with volumetrics as well, but volumetrics ended up crashing quite a bit. So we're looking
I can
forward.
actually see if
Is that being worked on at the moment?
I haven't got another version since the last time we looked at this. Oh, I don't have it. No, okay. I wiped my drive since last week, so I don't have that.
Oops.
I do have is my test that crashes 80% of the time, where I set up a tool script where if I hide one of the floors, it redoes the navigation mesh to show what floors are currently there, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, Zach, that's right. The we discussed putting a roof onto the actual scene, but decided that it would be great for that demonstration purpose, but nothing else. And then you wouldn't see the day-night cycle either. So
we've mentioned lighting a couple of times.
Yeah.
Some basic tips for lighting, and this comes from my theatre lighting experience. I was a techie. I wasn't a lighting designer. I should point that out. My father was a lighting designer, but tip one, you never see pure white or pure black in nature. They just don't exist. Outside of a lab, they don't happen. So if you put pure white, or in theatre we call it open white, so white with no filter in front of it, onto a scene, it actually looks artificial. If that's what you're going for that sci-fi feel or a slightly surreal feel, could be great. But it won't look like sunlight. The white we have here is slightly yellow. And what's happening is we have a gray skewing towards yellow on the wall and yellow light, and it's just they're adding to each other. It's glowing white. By the same token, shadows shouldn't be pure black. All the shadows in our game are a very slight purple.
Yeah.
Because the same reason you don't see pure black. In order to get pure black shadows, you'd have pure white light and no other light coming in from anywhere.
Or just stare into the heart of a black hole.
Right.
Is another option.
Which is also very disturbing. Actually, pure black is really weird to look at. Like I know people who've looked at lab created pure black materials and like, ooh, that feels weird.
But you don't get any shading on them because they do not reflect lights. And so there's I can't remember which YouTuber it was, but they painted an entire room with Vanta black. I think this is a trademark like super black color, and they were in the position where they walked in and you've got no perspective, you've got no nothing. Objects in there look weird and isolated.
Another thing I'll point out is in lighting, you don't ever have just one color. I mean, unless it's very, very artificial. And by artificial, I mean you're going for a specific style. So if we look at Mikey, for example, because I'm looking at his face right now, he's actually got the traditional movie colors. They're actually balanced slightly wrong on my monitor, but that's my monitor. He's got amber on one side, and he's got teal on the other. If you look at me, I've got a lamp over here and shadow over here, but the light is bouncing off this shadow. So I've got these quite ghastly, what color is that? Mustard blinds over the window. The light is bouncing off that, giving a warmer color on this side. So when you're creating a small little scene, you want to avoid just having the one light. So traditionally in camera and in theater, we'll start with 3-point lighting. So you've got
Yeah.
your fill, your key, and your back. So this will be my key light. This is the one that's showing up. This is my you can't really see it, but the reflection here
Yeah.
is my fill that's filling in the detail. So you've got that nice transition, you've got some depth to the face, and then behind you usually use a different color, sometimes a darker color. This looks very flat because it's just bouncing off the green wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to be putting in different colors. In our current prototype, all the lights are one color. So when you're running through the dungeons, there's just the torchlight. What I want to do is start making it so that the torches flicker between colors, and adding in those spells with different lights gives the thing a lot more depth. We do also have an ambient light, which is a very, very dark purple, so that you're not in complete darkness. But that's my very quick rundown on lighting in scenes.
I'd like to add to that as well. I think a lot of people when they show off their renders or their models, especially if it's in Blender or within the game itself, there's a certain process that a lot of more experienced people will go through. Not only just setting up the appropriate lights, but also, which is half the battle anyway, but also a compositing layer afterwards. So you go in and you actually tweak those values so they're more accurate. Lens flare is often added in after the fact if it's not captured in camera. And
There's another
color
thing that
correction.
we don't really talk about with lighting that will become more of a thing in Godot 4, playing with their lamps. It's actually possible.
Yeah.
The sharpness of the light, how sharp or how soft it is. So this is a very blended look on me because I've got the light here, I'm bouncing it deliberately off the wall, I'm not bouncing it directly onto my face so that it looks softer. This one is reflected. Mikey has a much stronger, it's almost like a toon shade line across his face. So you can actually see where the blue stops and the amber starts. But if he bounces it off something, you'll get a much more subtle, like almost firelight, right?
There you go.
In theatre, you'll do this with different lenses, different lighting instruments, different lamps, depending on if you're American or British, will have different lenses. So a Fresnel lens will have the Fresnel diffusion on it, the ripples on it, which will break up the lights or the photons. So the light source looks a lot softer. And then you can move the lens further away from the bulb or close to the bulb and change how sharp that is. Other lights will have a very, very sharp focus. In Godot 4, I don't think we can do this in Godot 3 yet, but in Godot 4, one of the things you can do is change the softness of the light. And that gives you all kinds of things you can play with. So it's not just about the color, it's also the intensity and the sharpness of the light.
Yes. In fact, this light here is bounced off the wall to try and blend it a little more. If I leave it as a direct light, in fact both of these, I end up with this weird effect where I have a border down the middle of my face, a rather thick border actually with the position of the lights, and it looks odd. I mean, it's certainly,
That'd be a very cool effect.
it
I've
can be,
seen it
yeah.
done very well.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one of those things that's not right or wrong, but there are things that definitely work. I would like to talk a little bit about Blender because I read an interesting post by Ton of the Blender Foundation. Good old Ton. Apple recently added a load of funds to Blender, which was fantastic. I was like, what are they playing at? Don't worry, Blender's remaining absolutely free and all that lot. But he's actually announced that they're working with Apple so that their cycles and things like that will actually work with Apple computers again. I mean, they have worked just on the CPU for forever. But it's good to see that finally that there's a chance that I don't know when it will become available or anything along those lines, but there's a chance that people actually deciding to use Apple computers at the moment may actually be able to use them properly for Blender once again. I mean, it's
I
since
didn't
they
know Apple
deprecated.
could do artwork. Sorry.
Well, it's been absolutely years since they deprecated I think it was Mojave, whichever 10 point whatever that was, but they removed support for OpenGL and OpenCL, so suddenly graphics cards wouldn't work. Even external ones wouldn't work with Blender. You could get around it by using AMD's own software if you had an AMD card, but most people in certain spaces don't tend to use AMD cards. They stick with NVIDIA and CUDA. So we ended up with this vast gulf with people, and rightly so, there was a joke running that you don't if you want to focus on Blender, don't get a Mac. But it's really good to see it being opened up again to more computers and more compatibility, which is something that has not been the case for many years. Let's just put it that way. I think it's about 6 years.
Yep.
You could just write off having a Mac, unfortunately.
I mean, I haven't used a Mac in a long time. Last time I tried to use a Mac, the person I was visiting someone, I had to do some work. They went, "Oh, I've got a computer you can use," and they were like, "It's so much easier than using Windows." Like, I mean, for you, sure, I'm glad you think that, but I'm having to relearn 2 decades worth of keyboard shortcuts that no longer work. Like, I am so confused by this computer that I
Like
can't get
swapping
anything
around
done.
command and control and things like that.
Yeah, and they don't like the Windows key doesn't work the same way, and like the Finder is a different. Like, it's a perfectly fine paradigm if that's what you're used to. Use it,
Oh, totally.
but it just drove me bonkers. I'm having to now relearn all that with Linux, but that's a much easier transition for me.
There was a couple of things. So I was running Linux a couple of years ago, and I was using Pop OS, which Jan is using now, and I was using Blender. And unfortunately, Alt is a system key. It's a system level key for certain things. So shortcuts that work across all platforms, suddenly you had to hold down an extra key, and I can't remember. It was like if it was Shift and Alt and something, you had to hold down Control, Shift and Alt. But the only way you would ever find that out is by going through and looking at
Using
the shortcut
Blender.
keys and using Blender. Yeah, I found it really insightful though, because I didn't think that there would be other operating system specific keys other than the super key.
Yep. For me, the big thing was so I kept all my files and some of my programs, most of my files, on my old hard drive, and I didn't want to format that because I wanted to keep all my stuff. So it was NTFS, and all these things just weren't working right. And I reinstalled Steam, and like none of the Steam Proton things were working right. And then I read somewhere that NTFS doesn't play well with Linux because it doesn't have the same permissioning. So I got myself another hard drive, made that ECT, whatever it is, 3.
EXT, isn't it?
EXT, whatever it is, the Linux one, that name's forgotten. Moved everything to that drive, then formatted the original drive, made that the same format, and then split them. So videos go over here, programs go over here, and that works great.
Yeah, I even learned something from that with how you can label drives, because if you're on a Windows platform, you'll be used to them having letters, but you can also use a name as well. And I know on Linux you usually get like DEV/A or /B,
Which is the location, yeah.
which is the location, and that always that kind of worked for me. That made sense. But you can also use labels, and you can force the operating system to use labels.
You can use the UUID if you want.
Yeah. So it's so many options. It's almost like Linux is really open.
I mean, I don't want to get into the whole everyone should be moving to Linux. I mean, I don't actually think that's true. I think if you're somebody who's comfortable with computers and you're quite happy to do some troubleshooting when a certain driver just stops working, and you aren't happy with your current operating system, because I was getting bored of Windows, then you should look into it. If you're happy where you are, you should stay where you are.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had an interesting sort of mind fight. My mind was fighting because I'd really like to go back to Pop OS. I had an absolutely fantastic time with it until, and I might have mentioned this before, I was working on Unreal and things like tessellation weren't working, and I was sat there, and it took me a whole day of figuring out it's actually just the driver, the NVIDIA driver in Linux didn't support tessellation. And so I'd done everything correctly. It's just it was an unsupported thing. And since then, I use specific bits of hardware that you might be able to get working in Linux, or there are some open alternatives. But I've looked into them. Things like my Stream Deck, where I press to record and press to open programs, I find incredibly useful, and I like the way it works. But also, my microphone is not compatible in Linux at all currently.
Right now, that's the big one.
Yeah.
We have a couple of things. Todd says, I didn't realize there was any issue running Blender on Mac. I only recently began running Blender. And Zach, love Linux. Go on.
So no specific issue running, because both Eevee and Cycles would work absolutely fine, but there was no GPU acceleration. So if you were running cycles, you just have to sit there and wait a lot longer than you would if you had a graphics card, essentially. So now that Apple are supporting the development fund, they're actually going to make Metal, the underlying API that Macs use, compatible with Blender, which will hopefully mean that the new chips look absolutely phenomenal, and whether or not they're phenomenal when it comes to rendering in Blender, we just don't know at the moment.
Yep. Zach says, love Linux, waiting for game support. Catch-22, no one support it because there's no massive game support. No one will support games for it because no one will use it. Yes, but Steam have actually changed that drastically. And over the past year, since I last checked it, Proton, which is Steam's built-in Windows layer, compatibility layer, has gotten so good. If you are not running your games on an NTFS drive, if you're running on a drive that has Linux permissioning, Wasteland 3 ran out of the box. I'm hearing reports that Arc runs flawlessly. The one thing you cannot do is run anything that has cheat protection.
Yes, I know that's changing soon because I know a lot of companies are trying to get things ready for the Steam Deck.
Some companies are trying to get rid of that problem, but if you just want to emulate what's out there, Windows games that use cheat protection. So what's a good one? What's the one you play with Bass?
Shooty
Not
bang
Atlas.
bang.
Shooty bang bang. If you're playing shooty bang bang, Overwatch, Overlord,
No,
Over Oranges,
Apex Legends.
That's what I said. So if you're playing Overwatch and you've got the cheat protection on, it's using specific drivers. I think I actually linked to Microsoft Edge that Linux just can't touch. And so it's not a question of we haven't done it yet. It's like we can't solve that problem. But if you're doing anything that isn't doing live cheat protection, or you can turn it off, like in Arc, you can turn off BattleEye. A lot of games are very good. Not all of them. You can go to the Proton Steam database or Steam Proton database, whatever it is, and look up a game and you can see it. But I was very surprised when I fired up Wasteland 3 and it was perfect.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing. You can quite easily say, oh, this doesn't work on this platform, but that might only apply to you or a subset of people. I mean, take Substance Painter. That ran flawlessly for you, didn't it? And that would have been, I would have thought that would have been one of the ones you may have had problems with.
Zach, I agree. Like a year and a half ago, Proton always needed tweaking. Now I haven't had to tweak anything. Like it's just worked. The problem here is that's a really big ask to just go test it. Like go wipe your operating system, download Steam and download all your games and test it. Like that's 2 days work realistically. And then you got to put Windows back afterwards if you don't like it. Like that's not a small gamble.
I think there would be very few people who would not necessarily not know how to do it, but would be able to have all the tech to clone your hard drive to make sure if you wanted to go back to your previous state, you could just go ahead and do that. And yeah, dual booting is another option, but again, that can get quite technical. And I've had dual boots where I'm like, okay, well, I'm done with whatever it was I was dual booting with, and then Windows no longer launches. I'm like, boot manager. And I eventually got it back up and running, but you know,
back around 2008, and I did something that wiped both partitions.
Yeah, if you start playing with your boot records and you don't know what you're doing, that's it. You've got a non-working computer.
So I would say if you're somebody that wants to move to Linux, like with me, just like I'm kind of over Windows updates. Like I don't like how they work. I don't like the amount of control I don't have over my machine. And I don't like that I did one 3 years ago that lost all of my work. Like I'm glad if you're enjoying the company. I'm done with it for now. I'm going to install Linux.
Yeah.
Now let's make sure the software can work. The big one for me was Resolve, our video to editing software. We did a quick test. Does this work? Worked great. That was
after tweaking a few settings. It was audio codecs that were the real big one, but fortunately OBS being open, which is awesome, it had a ton of FFmpeg options, and you could just change the audio stream instead of being a compressed, I think it's MP3 that was the problem. We could just change it to a WAV format, which you'll find out more in the LMMS course.
Yep. I installed Guild Wars 2 to test it the other day on Lutris. Looked great. Like really smooth. Full Like they say on things, put everything on minimal. I put everything on maximum to see what happened. And what happened was it played around trying to download all the shaders, let it do that. And then once everything had settled down, I look at the frame rate and it's 60. It's fine.
Nice.
It's absolutely fine. There's no problem with it. So yeah, it's definitely improved. I do want to make sure that you understand I'm not a Linux fanboy saying everyone has to go over there. I'm saying if you are in a position where you're going to move over to this operating system, the chances are a lot of the software you like will work. Not all of it.
And the same rule as if you're upgrading from Blender, let's say we're on 2.937 at the moment, I think, with the long-term support. But Blender 3 is right around the corner, and it will be so tempting to just click upgrade. But the problem is you can break projects doing that. And it on a similar way that updating an operating system is even more potentially disruptive, only do this type of work or switch out when you're not in the middle of a project.
Yeah.
Because that could be disastrous.
I'll tell you, I've had more problems with Git than I have with Linux.
Maybe Git should start using Linux. Git's incredibly useful. It helps you keep track of all your changes and everything else. But it can throw some weird error. It's the errors that are the problem. It will say there's a problem with your encryption key, and it's got nothing to do with your encryption key. It's to do with
tell
your
me,
file
yeah,
size.
I'm not pushing this as a security concern. Like, what security concern? You should speak to the person who owns it. I own it.
It's and I got one
And
the
it
other
turns
day.
out what they mean is one of your files is too big.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just say that?
It's like, what? Yeah, and obviously that is a shame because it's such a powerful tool. It's a shame that it's not a more protected tool that has better user affordance as to what is going on.
Now, we are approaching the hour.
Bye.
So, Mikey, would you like to do some more magics?
Magics. Yes.
Okay. And while we're doing that, do people have questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, interpretive dances, or jingles? Which is a litany or a phrase I came up with while I was teaching undergrads. I was a very good professor. Question regarding Git. My buddy is using Unreal and our project files are already gigantic. How do you use Git for something like that? Does the sub allow large file transfers? If a file is over a certain size, Git will not do it. At least GitHub.
It's 100 megs, I think, for an individual file, and then after that, you have to use LFS. And I'm not sure what the entire repo size is. That's something that is yet to be tested. I mean, I'm not quite sure how large this total.
Do you want to try maxing it out?
Yeah. Okay. So this will take a few hot seconds to run.
I'm going to guess about 20 seconds.
So as that's loading up, yeah, there are other source control programs. So Git is only one type of version control software, I think it's called, and there is a specific one that's for art and things like that. That can take far bigger snapshots.
Only 14 seconds.
Oh, that was
This
nice.
will run slower because it's a lot of stuff.
Or a lot of empty rooms, by the looks of it. Yeah, there we go.
Git is great, but when it goes wrong and you don't know what you're doing, it's very frustrating. Okay, Mikey, show us some spells. Frost. Fire. Or flares, I guess. And then the weird floaty ones.
Do they hit themselves?
No.
Oh, if I do this right, I should have an infinite spiral.
I mean, I don't know about infinite.
Well, I presume everybody wants to go to bed at some time, but...
I think you may have seriously underestimated the size of infinity.
No, you get small infinities as well, you know.
So the slow one doesn't have...
Look at this corridor.
Yep, go for it.
Come along. Come along.
I mean, I can make that faster if you want.
Oh, it's got a timer on it as well.
Yep.
That's a shame. That would have been awesome to just keep going down here.
I mean, I can show you where it is if you want to make it faster.
Oh, that's okay for the moment. I'm busy exploring.
Can you knock things off the table with your spells?
If they're sleeping, I guess not.
Bob, you should be able to move.
Hey, Bob.
Yep, there he goes.
So,
It might be the barrels are too heavy, because these are very light.
oh, okay. Do you like my new hat?
Very much.
So one of the things, and I think I mentioned this either last week or the week before, I love the way that the procedural generations actually made this level, because I probably would never put a big corridor down, but I think it works.
It's really dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very ominous.
I like Todd. Someone did a great job polishing that floor. I mean, this is the nice thing about undead laborers; they don't get tired.
It's a very shiny floor.
Yeah, so because we're using flat surfaces, I guess more accurate than flat shading. When we get reflective surfaces like that, you'll really notice them.
Yeah,
because we don't have a shine. We just
there'll be a new set of flooring and walls, etc., along with the dungeon, as the dungeon kit as it comes round to being updated.
Yep.
Of course, this could be a polished marble floor. And obviously they've been... One of the things I think would be awesome is some dirt that people can put in corners.
I think one of the things that'd be awesome would just be a really rare skeleton that wanders through with a Zamboni.
A bit different?
Yeah.
Oh, I found a room that leads nowhere.
Yeah, you get that.
Oh yes, they interact with this as well.
I mean, you could have just done that with one, but sure.
More required. well, since I've got unlimited of them, I'm going to use unlimited of them. It's a bit dark down here. Let's light it up.
You like that little orb, don't you?
I love this little orb.
I'm pretty proud of some of these particles, I have to say. The cursed Zamboni.
Oh, another really long corridor. Yeah, this is really coming on.
I did have to fight the urge to go make a bunch more rooms today, but like at this stage in the development, once I've got this, okay, this is how I'm going to do this, I kind of need to move on to the next stage because we have basic systems I have to write. Still like those guys. Oh,
this one doesn't have anything in it. It's a tease chest. Oh, maybe this one does. Oh, I like the skull.
Yeah, weapons chests have skull.
Oh, this one doesn't have.
That's not a weapons chest.
Aha.
And I replaced the two-handed pulse for the new particles too. Another chest.
I know, right?
And don't forget the tooltips.
What's this one? Lactium, because coming up with names for magical metals is harder than it looks.
Yep.
No time for tooltips. Smash things. Oh, it's the double-handed one.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a big child. What can I say?
But yeah, the extra lights going through the place. Like, I could have baked the lighting, but I wanted moving light, and it makes such a difference. Especially it's colourful, which is what we wanted. We want something very cartoony.
I found my way back to the beginning. What does Bob say? Keep calm and carry on. Tactics are not a breath mint. And TikTok isn't a social platform. Nice. Right, I'm going to come out of that now. There we go. And come back to us. Nope, fail. There we go.
Fail.
Unobtainium.
Yep.
That
One
was
of
a
the
brilliant
worst
name.
plot devices ever written. They may have at least have just called it MacGuffin.
Magic. Love it.
So yeah, that's where we are right now. I'm looking forward to getting the magic system in there, and working on the class system. The first iteration of the classes is going to be very simply, class can only use this weapon type. If it's this weapon type, you can't equip it. So if you're a two-handed person, you can't use one-handed or magic items. Boom, done.
Yeah. That
And
makes
magic
sense.
weapons, I'm going to have to give each one their own spell type. And I want to have it so that the NPCs can spawn in there so that you have to deal with NPC mages and barbarians and rouges.
I suppose we could put scrolls down, and you can develop your magic by picking up scrolls of wisdom or something along those lines.
We could, but you just add an entirely new system of building spells on the fly.
Okay, nice.
Which feels like terrible feature creep, you horrible person.
Well, it shouldn't be too difficult. We just
La 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 la. We're not doing that live on video. We've had this conversation. We do a feature creep offline.
Oh, okay, my bad. Nice. So, any final questions before we sign off for the evening? I'll stop that now. Oh, you started doing Peter Gunn.
Edit.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I hope you've liked what you've seen with the upcoming particles and spells,
Right.
and us. I hope you like what you see.
Feature creepers. I'm going to call all creepers in Minecraft features from now on.
Features. I can wind up the kids with that. I'm definitely going to do it. Yes,
What
and we'll
about
keep
issue
you.
called the feature creep?
Yes.
I think. You know what, Mikey? On the animations, if you can make me a little dance that all the NPCs can do on a certain spell, we could call it the feature creep.
And put disco music into it as well.
Yeah. I mean, you say that. We never actually finished playing Saints Row 3 and 4.
Oh, yes.
But there is a weapon in Saints Row 4, I believe it is, the dubstep gun.
Wob, 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 wob.
Which just makes everyone around you dance dubstep when you hit them until they explode.
I don't know what dancing dubstep is. I'm definitely going to Google it afterwards, though. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Remember, we've got updates coming on the blog as well.
And don't forget to check out the Godot Jams.
Yes.
I'll post the link to the video again, which is over here. There's the link to the video. And I'll post a link to their Discord again. There's the link
Saints
to
Row
their...
stream when? I don't
Can't.
No? Are they banned from streaming?
No, adult content everywhere. Well, our audience is
I was about to
family
say
friendly.
we couldn't do it on this channel. However,
Well, I mean, they blur everything out, but just content-wise, I don't think we get a lot of complaints
I would be fine with it
from
on
parents that aren't Roderick.
No, stream it on my Twitch.
It's an amazing game. I mean, it's
It is
probably
a
the
lot of
best
fun.
I've ever played. And it handles things like humor and gender and sexuality way better than any other game, which is weird because it's not trying to take itself seriously, which I really appreciate.
Probably helps with the delivery.
Well, it's like all the craziness of Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, like just the sheer insanity without the po-face, oh, we're actually quite serious, but here's a couple of puns from GTA 3.
No, it is a great game. I don't know what stopped us playing it. Maybe we should play it again.
We started playing something else. Yeah.
I think that was it. Well, thank you, everybody.
Purple. Thank you for having us, everybody. We had a lovely time. Thank you for the jelly and the ice cream.
I've got some jelly and ice cream.
I've got jam donuts in the kitchen.
Well, we know what.
Last week I got a jam donut and there was no jam in my jam donut. There's no Godot nut jam.
So many years ago, I worked at Tesco, which is a supermarket in the UK. And I worked in the bakery for a short time. And how you make the jam donuts is after they come out of the fryers, you stick them into a jam filling machine. And one of the jokes is to make sure that the new person, moi, has to, they turn up the jam. And I think it was on a timer, anywhere between like 5 seconds and 30 seconds. And of course, they whacked it up to 30. So here I am going, and it starts triggering. And then I'm covered in jam. And I'm like, someone help.
That reminds me of lighting jokes where we would send people out for black lighting gel. sheet of metal. Like, it's a filter that lets no light through. It's great. Or skyhooks. Or
Skyhooks.
buckets of smoke.
Anyway, anecdotes aside, we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.